Hello, traveler, and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. I am your aforementioned Spooky Chris, Chris Ringler, and I welcome you. I'm excited today to speak with author Mark Benson. He is the author of Isaac in the Sky, a story of trauma, truth, and the quest for what lies within the stars. He is also a NASA JPL Solar System ambassador, promoting the space agency's work with the public, schools, libraries, and more. And I couldn't think of a better time for him to be on than now, with the renewed excitement in the space program and looking beyond the stars. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for joining me, Mark. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I am very well. I appreciate you making time to talk to me today.
Sure. That's great. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. I'm just gonna dive right in.
Yeah.
When and how did you first become fascinated with outer space?
Yeah. So all that pretty much comes from, I've pretty much always been that way since being a kid. My mom really got me into that. She was a big fan of everything having to do with NASA. So if there was, I grew up in the space shuttle era. So if there was a launch when I was a kid, we always watched it, and even to the point where if I was in school on a day when there was a launch, she would like the teachers knew that I was supposed to be like given a pass to some classroom with the TV so
Oh,
I could watch it.
cool.
So yeah, that right from very early on, my mom just made sure that like sit me down and make sure I watch everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My folks were older, so they weren't as fascinated, but I grew up in a time, probably similar time zone then,
Yeah.
um, where we would watch the big shuttle takeoffs and stuff at school. Like they'd
Yep.
build the TV into the library and we'd watch them. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was an exciting time to get interested in that. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you see space as part of our kind of the society and our future?
Yeah. I think, I mean, one of, I mean, there aren't many things more human than discovery. So just the wanting to know more things, the wanting to understand, the wanting to answer the greatest question you can ask, which is, what is that? I mean, that's everything we've ever discovered started with someone saying, "What is that?" and someone saying, "I don't know," and then we figured it out. So I think that's just very kind of innately who we are is to look beyond where we are and to question what is there. So I think people don't like not knowing things. So if there's something out there to know, I think we just naturally kind of reach toward it. And I think we've seen that with even this Artemis 2 mission that just ended. The interest in it has been. I mean, I thought the interest was going to be high. It was higher than even I anticipated it was going to be, and a big part of that is it's just not something we've seen before, or that most people around today have seen before. I'll talk to classrooms and I'll talk to kids, and they'll talk about, well, I haven't seen an astronaut crew go, toward the moon or fly anywhere else before. And I'll kind of laugh and think, well, we are very different ages, but I haven't either. I haven't seen that either. Unless you are way high as a senior, you don't remember those missions, those Apollo missions, and anything more than shuttle missions just orbiting the Earth. So it is kind of funny that, a third or fourth grader has something in common with people who are in their 40s and 50s today. We haven't seen this stuff either. So it grabbed generations and generations of interest. And I think that's exciting.
Absolutely. I think this excitement kind of transcends so much of the things that kind of, keep people kind of in the doldrums from time to time.
Yeah.
And it really, I think we underestimate how much it stands for our hope. And
Mhm.
just looking beyond ourselves, and we haven't really done that in a while. So I think that's
Yeah,
part of
it's
it.
it's beyond beyond watching the Artemis stuff on TV. I don't really remember the last time I put on the news and was excited about what I was going to see. So That it was just kind of a nice thing to know that everybody was watching and everybody was enjoying and everybody was excited, and we could all just kind of have that, and we should have more of those. Like I have a friend of mine who works at NASA. I remember sending her a message like during the mission saying, "This is really exciting. Can you just launch another one like tomorrow, please? Because this is great." So,
Well, and it's interesting in that in this timeline you have kind of like the real like leaps and bounds of AI and then kind of a return to space. And it's clear, both are I mean, really Longview, very exciting,
mhm,
but like looking to space is because right now it involves us and
right.
we're part and parcel and we see ourselves in that. And
Yeah.
it's still, there's still a human element, um,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah.
And I'll get back to more of that kind of a
Sure.
kind of conversation, but I really wanted to get, why you're here. When did you first develop an interest in writing a book?
Yeah, so I pretty much always had an interest in writing, and I don't know that there's ever a period when I wasn't writing just for fun or just for myself. I spent a lot of time writing short stories, and I compare it to a runner who gets very good at doing 5Ks or 10Ks, and you kind of look and think, what would happen if I tried a half marathon? Would I even get to the end? What would happen if I tried a full marathon? Could I even make it? And I think I wrote a lot of short stories and just kind of kept thinking, what if I actually tried to write a novel? Like, could I actually go that distance? Could I write that far? Could I get that deep into a story? Could I develop characters that fully that I could actually have a novel? So I kept writing short stories and was just kind of on the lookout for what is one of my stories that has legs, which one could has a bigger world than I'm giving it, and which one am I actually shorting by making it a short story. And I finally found one that I thought was a big enough world and a big enough story, and I wrote that at full novel length. It's terrible. No one should ever be forced to read it. It's awful. Um, but ever since writing that, it's like my brain kind of rewired itself to whenever I would come up with other story ideas after that, they were all full length stories that my brain was just, okay, we recalibrated. Okay, now you want to write bigger things. Okay, so let's come up with ideas that are bigger. Let's come up with ideas that have bigger worlds and bigger plots and more characters, and more complexity. So ever since that, I've just been writing full length novels all the time.
That's awesome. Has anything else been published then? Because
No, just the one.
okay.
I just have the one published. I had some good luck sending out pitches for other manuscripts and getting some agents. Um, I joke that I'm very good at getting an agent. I'm not very good at getting a book deal. So I've had a couple agents. They've tried really hard to sell some things, and it just didn't happen. But now I have this one, and that's really exciting. And it's one that got me the book that I published is one that did get me an agent at the time, and the agent fell in love with it. So it's part of why I felt confident to put this book out there was I felt like this one had legs. This one was a good story, and the fact that it didn't sell at the time, I felt was less a reflection of the book and maybe the marketplace, and I still believed enough in the story that one way or the other, I wanted it out there. I wanted people to read it.
This is you could scarcely have asked for a better time than right now to really, because I think you're going to see a resurgence in that kind of storytelling. So that's the
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
and I mean it's funny what people don't realize is so much of the publishing stuff is it's kind of like you need a job to get a car, you need a car to get a job, and it's kind
Right.
of like you need an agent to get a deal, you need a deal to get an agent, and then you need a book, and the book
Right.
is kind of the vehicle, and you kind of need
Yeah.
once that you have the book, like hopefully this will get a lot more opportunities for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. So I've written a lot of things. Some of them I'd be willing to publish that I think are good enough. This was, I thought, the best one I had at the time. Um, Some of them are not, I'm not just gonna just go back and well, just publish all these things now. As long as I'm publishing just gonna self-publish, why don't I just publish all of them? No, there's a handful that I think are worthwhile. There's a handful that maybe with some revision could get out there, and then there's new stuff I'm working on. So that's yeah, whatever I think. If I think it's good enough, then I will put it out, and if I don't, then it gets pushed to the side. There's a reason some of them didn't get published, and sometimes it's the marketplace, and sometimes it's the book. So if it's the book, I don't want anyone to read it anyway. So I only want to put out good stuff. So
Fair, fair. Now can you tell me a little bit about Isaac in the Sky and your inspiration for it?
yeah, so Isaac is about a kid who, when he was 8, he became the most famous kid in the world for the worst day of his life. His abusive father murdered his mom. And the moment he was let out of the house by police to make sure he was safe, that moment he was led from his home got captured in a photo that just went viral around the world as this sad kid with his dog, and his dad's in handcuffs and mom's dead. And he instantly became famous for the worst thing ever. And now 10 years later, he's spends most of his time by himself. He doesn't have a place in the world. He thinks that everything is a threat to him. Everyone's just looking to bully him or get something from him. And he basically just hides. And one night, using his mom's old telescope, he discovers another planet, a true ninth planet in our solar system. And just by accident, happens to make this discovery. And now he's kind of stuck because he has something that the world is going to want to know everything about. But the last thing he wants, the most dangerous thing he could possibly have, is something that the whole world wants. And he has to decide if he's going to keep it to himself and hide the discovery of the millennium or share it. And if he shares it, there's pitfalls all around, and he's trying to figure out who he can trust and not trust with the information. And it's 10 years since all of this happened, so like news organizations and TV they're already kind of swirling around him, trying to figure out what happened to the famous kid from the photo 10 years later. Where are you at now? And every time he kind of pokes his head out, it goes bad. And now he has this discovery and he doesn't know what to do with it. And the story came from I had kind of had the backstory of the character. I kind of developed characters separately from plots. It's kind of an odd way to go, but I had this idea for Isaac and I had this idea for his backstory, and I wasn't really sure what to do with his present day story. But I liked this character idea. And then I was doing some volunteering. I was doing a lot of volunteering work at the Adler Planetarium in Chicago, teaching people about telescopes and space. And I was watching a show there one day about a pair of astronomers who have all the circumstantial evidence that there is a ninth planet out there, and they believe it's there. They haven't spotted it, but everything points to there being some gigantic planet out there with a very long orbit. It hasn't been in our neighborhood for quite a while, but it's there. And I was watching this show at the planetarium about how their search for this planet. And they have, PhDs on top of PhDs. They have observatories on mountaintops. They have staff. They have funding. They have everything you could want to try to make this discovery. And so far, they haven't found it. And I remember coming out of the show and I was standing on the front steps of the planetarium looking toward the parking lot, just trying to spot where my car was. And I remember just thinking, what if some kid with no resources, no intent, and just an average old backyard telescope in a light polluted city just accidentally made this discovery that these two pros haven't been able to make? What would that be like? And I thought that was interesting. So I started walking to my car where my notebooks were so I could start scribbling some things down. And by the time I had gotten to my car, I had already attached the story to my character Isaac that I had already developed. And I thought, you know what? Isaac needs a discovery. Isaac needs to find something truly amazing, and have his world, his present day world, shaken by it. I think I need to put Isaac in the story. And then I got to my car and I sat down, I pulled out my notebook, and I just very quickly scribbled down, with his mom's telescope, Isaac finds something that no one has ever seen. And in turn, he hopes the world will see him in a way they have never seen him. And as soon as I scribbled that down, I just thought, yeah, I have a story. I have tons of ideas, and a day later, I think they're the worst ideas ever. Why did I think of them? This one, as soon as I scribbled that, I thought, no, this is a real story. This is gonna be a thing. And by the time I had driven home, I had it mostly plotted out in my head and started writing, and I wrote it pretty quickly. So this was definitely kind of a lightning strike story.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you what the process was like for you. How about, do you have kind of a like a writing ritual or do set times you write?
Yeah, so not set times. I write when it comes to me. I don't believe in, you hear lots of people. It's kind of writing is work, do whatever works for you. But the general advice of, well, you have to write every day to practice. No, not if you're not feeling it. Don't do it. Because then you're just going to be frustrated by the bad stuff you write. If you're not feeling it, don't do it. So I tend to write later at night because I feel like I write a little bit better when I'm a little bit tired. I think my brain, the technical aspects and the rules kind of disappear a little bit, and I get a little bit more poetic in the language. I get a little bit more literary when I'm a little bit tired. So I tend to write late at night. But the main thing I do is that I outline very heavily. So I probably spent a week or two really going through and detailing every aspect of the story, all the characters, everything that's going to happen chapter by chapter, vibes, themes, everything. And then once I have a full outline, then I just think of it like taking dictation. That I'm just transcribing. The book is up here in the air, and I'm just taking dictation from it. I've already outlined the story. I just need to actually type. So when I actually draft, I can draft pretty quickly. So I think Isaac I wrote in 27 days, front to back, and then went back and revised, obviously, but usually less than a month to write one of these if I outline it well. If I try to, be bold and not outline and then write, then I fumble it and it takes a lot longer. But that's why I stick to the outlining plan.
Is there kind of a part of the writing process you like enjoy more than the rest?
Let's see. I think the part that I like, there's a part usually when I'm writing these stories, I kind of write the first chapter. I can't start anything until I know detailed how it's going to start and detailed how it's going to end. Some of the outline in the middle might be a little fuzzy, but the beginning and the end I have to have solid. And I'll write a first chapter to see how the voice sounds, to see how the character sounds, to see how the vibe feels. And once I feel like I've got that where I want it, then I move on to chapter two and continue. And there's usually a moment somewhere in the middle, maybe, chapter 9 or 10 or 11, depending on the book, when I realize that I'm not trying to get into character. I'm not thinking, okay, now, okay, so how would Isaac react to this? How would Isaac feel about this? How would Isaac think about this? Think about it, then go and write it. There's a moment kind of in the middle of drafting when I don't have to think that. I'm just the character and my fingers just fly and I just type. And sometimes that's where the most interesting things happen because sometimes that's where the surprises happen, where I'll outline heavily, but then I'll get into a chapter and I'll know exactly what's supposed to happen, and my character will decide, well, no, that's not what I'm feeling. Like I don't want to do that right now. I don't want to say yes to that. And then those are actually they're frustrating in the moment, but it's kind of exciting because it's like, okay, no, I've become the character now. Like I really have embodied this character. And if I listen to them, I'm going to give them a truer story that I do need to go back and revise this outline because they're right. They're not ready for this yet. They're not ready to say yes to that yet. And I need to fix this. And that only comes when you're not forcing it. It becomes when the character has taken ownership of their own story. And that's exciting. It becomes kind of like being in the zone, just kind of being unconscious and just letting the fingers go.
That's awesome. So your book tackles the topic of loss and grief. How
Yeah.
hard was it to have that as a core part of the narrative without letting that overpower it?
Yeah, it's always tricky it's always finding a balance, and that takes going back and kind of rereading through it myself to figure out what if I'm leaning too hard into something. Sometimes I catch myself. I'll realize the chapter is too long, or I'm not to the point I expected to be, and that's usually a sign that I got carried away in one aspect or another. With this book, there are pitfalls of getting too in the character's head, too into their emotions, and just kind of going down into a pit. There's also traps of getting too into the science. Like I wanted the science to be there. I want it to be real. I want anyone who knows the science to read it and go, okay, well, yeah, I mean, it's fiction and it's a book, and they're obviously coming up with wild, things that a kid could make this discovery, but the science lines up, like the research works. But I don't want it to be a science manual. I don't want anyone to get bored because it's too sciency. So it was a good kind of way to catch that. And I use side characters, my secondary characters, as a good measure. And some of those things, when a character is alone in their thoughts, they can kind of go off forever. But as soon as I introduce side characters in this book, as soon as I introduce the character of Haley, and get a little bit more involved with his uncle, then the dialogue increases, and then the characters police that for me. If the character starts talking too much about one particular thing, one of the other characters jumps in. It's like, whoa, 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 hold up. That's a little much. Really back off. You gotta explain that more. So the characters kind of provide a check on that a little bit for me, I think.
Fantastic. Now you talk about the ninth planet in the book. Are you convinced it's out there?
The evidence I've seen is pretty good. I mean, these astronomers who are looking are still looking. Last I checked, and they still haven't found it. I kept thinking as I was getting ready to publish this book, I was like, just don't find, give me a few, let me get this out here before, please don't find this right now. Um, the evidence I've seen from them, it's pretty good. It's a big sky, like you, and they're looking for something very far away. So the fact that they haven't found it isn't surprising. But I do think the evidence is pretty good. So I'm going to stick with their brains. Their brains are a little more powerful than mine, and they think it's there. I'm with them. The logic of it, that the way they explained it, and I had a couple of email exchanges with one of the two astronomers when I was writing the book because I wanted to get a little bit more information about their search and where in the sky they were searching. Because in my book, I wanted it to be the planet to be somewhere that it actually was close enough that a telescope could pick up a speck of it. So I had to talk to them a little bit about scale and distance and where in the sky maybe my version of the planet would have to be for it to be spotted by some kid in their backyard. So they're very helpful providing information for me on that. And the way they, explained their search to me, it all just made a lot of sense. It just sounded like, no, something has to be causing. They're talking about gravitational pull. Something as big as pulling things in this direction. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, something has to be pulling in that direction. It's not random. Is it a planet? I guess we don't know, but something big is over there. There is something over there causing that disruption. And a planet seems like the most logical thing to me.
That's cool.
And I hope they find it now. Now I hope they find it. That would be great.
Absolutely. Now how can we inspire kids to keep wanting to look to the sky, stars and dreaming?
I think we have to finding ways to give access to kids to science and the materials. I mean, just the ability for people to sit at home and turn on the TV and watch the Artemis mission and the crew, that's hugely important. The effect that that has on people. I mean, there are astronauts who are 7 years old right now who will say when being interviewed as they're standing on the moon, that like, when did you get in? No, you want to be an astronaut? They'll say, oh, I watched the Artemis 2 mission and I knew I had to do it. So that's important, but also science is hands-on. And I really believe that part of my work when I do programs for NASA as a NASA ambassador, they're educational programming. And I love going to classrooms and talking and giving presentations and answering questions. That's all great. But the best thing that I do is always something that's more hands-on, which is doing telescope nights in the parks, taking a telescope out into the park. There's no, there's nothing better than saying, No, please touch the telescope. Like, get your hands on it. Like, feel what this is like. Move it around. Point it at something else. Get your eye to the, don't look at a picture online. Get your eye down into the eyepiece and cover up one eye and see what that actually feels like to see. Look at Saturn through that eyepiece and watch as it flies out of view within about 30 seconds because it is racing across the sky. And there's no substitute for that. So I think any way you can get people to not just watch science or learn about it from a book or see a program or a video, but to get people to come out to a place and get hands-on science. I think that's the best way, that the visceral reaction you get. The look that I see when people look through the telescope for the first time, and then just the shock that they can see Saturn's rings or the big storm on Jupiter, that they can actually see that from here in town, just from a park with a, medium-sized telescope. That reaction is priceless, and I think that's the best way.
What do you hope readers get, take away from reading Isaac in the Sky?
I think I hope people take a few things away I mean, on the emotional side of it, this kid has been through a lot of trauma. And while his trauma is, the volume on his trauma is turned way up to 100 with being famous for his trauma. And not everyone is going to experience that. Most people's traumas are much more quiet and personal, and no one really knows about them. Um, but I think people who read this book, I would like to think that they get the sense that um, they can handle it in whatever way they need to, and that can evolve. And that if you need to hide, you hide. And if you need to be with people, you be with people. And people who don't understand that, that's not your fault that they don't understand your process. Um, and another part of it is that through his healing in this book, things start to turn around for Isaac when he starts to really he's because he's famous for this horrible thing, he sort of views himself as being a side character in the world story. That his town is the town, and there's all these important people in town, and all these figures doing all these things, and classmates and parents and all this stuff. And he's a character in this town. Everybody knows him and they know him for the specific thing. And he's like the secondary character in everybody's world. And he kind of falls into that and lets himself just be typecast as, okay, well, everyone knows me as this and this is what I am. The world has decided that I am this sad figure. Um, and I just have to be this sad figure for everybody else. Um, Things start to turn around for him when he realizes that what I hope people will take from the book is that you get to be the main character in your own story. That it's not selfish to put yourself first, especially when you're trying to heal, especially when you're trying to find your way and you're young and you're a teen and you're dealing with everything that teenagers deal with, even less dramatic than what Isaac was going through. But you get to be your own main character. You get to put yourself first. You get to prioritize what you need, find your way in your world, find your place. And if you do that, the people who are going to be helpful and supportive to you are going to find you because you were that person, not because you were cast off to the side by other people and they are what they expect you to be. So I want people to kind of be able to say, I'm my own main character and I need to do things this way.
Awesome. Can you talk a little about your being, the NASA JPL Solar System Ambassador?
Yeah, it's a fun thing. So I started out volunteering at the Adler Planetarium, and that led to an opportunity to go to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena to watch an end of mission. There was a mission to Saturn, the Cassini mission to Saturn, and I got to go out there with a small group of people to get a full behind the scenes 3 day visit to watch that end of mission. I was really lucky to get that opportunity. Met some great people. And two of the people I'd met were, by chance, were two NASA legends. One helped build the Voyager spacecrafts, and the other was the head of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and his name is literally on mission control. Like the mission control is named for him. And I met these two at a little social event at the end of the mission, and I didn't have any idea who these two people were. I just was forcing myself to be social, forcing myself not to be stuck to the wall and to talk to people. And I thought, well, these two older gentlemen look like my safest bet for a conversation. I'm going to go talk to them. And they turn out to be absolute legends. And after a really good conversation with them, they asked if I was in the ambassador program. And I asked them what that was. And they flagged down the head of the ambassador program, who was also in the room. And they brought her over and said, "Hey, we got a new ambassador for you. We'll get this person in your program." And I was like, "All right, I don't even know what the ambassador program is, but if they're my references, I'm in. Like, that's fine. I will take it. I may not be the best ambassador ever, but I will have the best references ever." So the program is basically that there are, a few, I can't remember how many, maybe a few hundred ambassadors, and you get renewed every year. And the idea is that we go out and create our own programming. So people do very different things. They take their skill sets and they do lots of different things with it. Create your own programming to promote NASA science and missions wherever you can in your local community. So I hold observing nights where I bring my telescope into the park and people come and look at planets. And I talk to schools and I hosted a live launch party for Artemis 2 at the local park district. We all got in a room and I narrated the launch and explained it all, and that was great. So we create our own events, deliver them, and then we report back to NASA what we do. And if we have questions and materials we need, NASA will help us and send us that stuff. And yeah, so I've been doing that I'm going on my 10th year. I'm about to have my 100th public event coming soon in June as an ambassador, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. So have you gotten a chance to get out and, promote the book? So do any events or anything?
Yeah, I've done a few book events, like local author showcases at some places around, and my local independent bookstore has been amazing. They host me kind of whenever. They'll just like I was in there a few months ago, and they were just like, "Hey, do you want to just come in on Saturday and set up a table? You can just do that. Like, why don't you just come in and set up a table and sell your book?" So they've been really helpful with that, and yeah, they've been great. So otherwise, I'm learning how to do it though. I don't, I'm gonna have another book out in September. And I'm excited about that one, not just because I love that book too, but because I'm going to take everything I learned from this first one that I did wrong, and I'm going to hopefully fix it for the next one. But it's a good learning process, and I like talking about it. I mean, it's really exciting when people come in, and I had a table. I think I was at this bookstore, and I was, just trying to get people to buy the book and take it home with them. And I had someone come in who actually had the book already and read it. And they came in, and that was really exciting because then we could I wasn't pitching them. I wasn't trying to sell them anything. I was just, yeah, who was your favorite character? What did you like? What did you like how it ended? Would you have made the same choices? So it was that's a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now as much as I'd like to ask, I mean, if you unless you want to give anything away about the next book, I don't want to take the spotlight away from Isaac because he
Yeah,
deserves
no,
that.
that's fine. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, it's gonna be. I'll say it's a young adult horror novel.
oh,
I just like when I write a lot of books like Isaac. I write a lot of books where characters are STEM, and smart characters and big into science, and that's great. But I grew up reading Stephen King, and so there's a special place for horror for me, and I was never going to get very far without taking my shot at writing horror stories too. So yeah, so it's young adult horror. It's just very simply, it's about a painter it's a young painter who's kind of a prodigy, and he has this terrible nightmare one night about his family being murdered while he's hiding. And when he wakes up, he's suddenly lost the ability to see color. And he's gone, the nightmare has drove him to be colorblind. And he stops painting because he can't see the colors, and he kind of loses it. And every night he has the exact same nightmare again. for years and years and years, and he can't figure out how to get it to go away until he's finally convinced that it's not a nightmare, it's a vision. And he now knows how his family's going to die, and he doesn't have any idea how to stop it.
Oh, that
And the solution is with that brush in his hand. He's got to get back to painting, and the solution is in the art. And that's where I'll leave it. So
that's great. That sounds awesome.
yeah.
How can people follow you and your work? Do you have a website or social media that you direct
Yeah,
people
so
towards?
so my website is authormarkbenson.com, markbenson.com. Um, and then on social media, I'm on a few different things, but most of my handles are Wayside Writer, Wayside Writer. I probably post most on Instagram. I do a lot of NASA stuff I have a Facebook page for my NASA stuff as well. You just find that by my name, Mark Benson, Solar System Ambassador. So I'll promote some of my book stuff there, but mostly I do stuff I'd say I live on Instagram more than the others. So yeah, that'd be the best spot to follow me. I just posted a teaser trailer for that book coming in September. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that little short 10-second teaser trailer and a link of how to pre-order it if you want to.
Fantastic. I cannot thank you enough. It's an absolute delight and fascinating to talk to you about all of this. So thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
And I wish you all the luck with Isaac, and maybe we can talk later in the year about the next one.
I'm definitely going to send you an email, so watch for
You
it.
take care, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
Bye. I want to thank author Mark Benson for making some time for me. That was awesome. What a fascinating conversation we had, talking about space and his this awesome sounding book and the Artemis 2 mission and everything. That was amazing. Again, you can find him on Facebook and Instagram and the other socials, Mark Benson, author, or Wayside Writer. And as he teased, he has a young adult horror novel coming out this fall. So I thank you for listening. I appreciate it. You can find all of my podcasts on your least favorite podcast app at spookychris.com. You can find links to all my podcasts, my reviews, my blogs, and all the links to my million books right there waiting for you. And I will speak to you soon. Take care, friends.